Hey guys, it's the Crack Tickler, back with the milk and cigarettes after curb stomping my local heroin addicts. Civilization 6 is a 4x strategy game taking typically around 300 turns to go from the ancient era to space age, which is almost as many turns as Kurt Angle memes I saw in the last 15 minutes on Twitter. But maiming my local subhuman filth within the 50 seconds it took for the police to arrive got me thinking, can I beat Civ 6 deity in just 50 turns? More so, can I win a domination victory in 50 turns? To do this, I will be playing as Abby from The Last of Us 2, who has experience in conquering planets really fast. Using her ability to take two, whether that be men, horsecocks, or units, there is no doubt her multitasking abilities will come in handy this game. You might be asking, why even do this when you can just have one other civ on a dual map and blitz them? While that would be the most straightforward strategy, there is a problem with that. World-leading psychiatrists have labeled me as a serial masochist, meaning no pussy-ass bitch behavior or heroin addict activities today. Will I be able to find a way around walls? How will I prevent the cheating AI from turning my ass cheeks into past cheeks? Make sure to grab your favorite crack pipe, smash that like button, and sit back as you watch me answer those questions and commit a couple of war crimes on the way in the name of YouTube entertainment as we smoke some crack off Guitarja's voluptuous Blizzard quest markers and conquer Civ 6 deity by turn 50. We start off the game with Afghan civilian difficulty instead of our stated goal of Congolese rubber farmer, since I didn't really know what to expect and wanted to ease into the unconsensual ass beating the AI will no doubt provide. After securing a decent enough start, we are going to win through our very simple plan I like to call Operation Stallion Sodomy. We will make a beeline for horsemen, securing horses on the way with our builder before utilizing Scythia's unique ability to get one horse free when you buy one while supplies last, sending 2 to 4 of these horsemen to each capital by turn 50 and conquering all of them simultaneously to win a domination victory. An unbeatable plan that will need no changes throughout this tale and won't shatter at first contact with the enemy. The first question we have to answer is, how will I locate the enemy capitals fast enough, as not finding them before they establish border control will leave me clumsily wandering about through the fog of war with the grace of a blind marine when the trees start speaking Vietnamese. And as we've established, every turn is of vital importance. While my warrior can explore enough on his own, just having one is insufficient. After numerous trials where I've produced extra units, it always ended up far too expensive a cost, and I didn't want a video where the comments are filled with questions of why the AI was crushing my testicles like this. Unfortunately, that left only one option. I know you will be disappointed, perhaps even unsubscribe. I built a scout. With my affront to God constructed, I was able to survey every capital by turn 15, allowing me to plan out my axis of attack. Our enemies are all weak defensive civs I've personally handpicked into this cauldron of cock-crushing. Gandalf for modern audiences, Nikocado if he doubled his caloric intake. The Navy SEALs couldn't remove my tongue from her milkers. I've got nothing for Dido. And the shitty England.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
The shittiest England. With just 20 turns remaining, you might be asking how I plan to produce 5 sets of units so quickly. The problem is I need both a strong advanced unit to tear down settlements as well as the mobility to blitz the capitals in 5 or so turns. The answer is horsemen. With 2 sources of horses nearby, I am able to get the Eureka for horseback riding rather easily, building 2 horsemen for the price of 1 and sending them galloping to the far corners of the map with their 4 move speed to turn the enemy leaders' insides into outsides, as just 2 horse molesters are enough to take out an enemy capital in the early game. All seems to be going well until disaster strikes. Guitarja builds a set of walls walls by turn 40, causing me to restart. The one Achilles heel in my strategy is the fact that horses do not possess opposable thumbs, thus struggle when operating siege equipment, meaning walls are less penetrable than a traditional Catholic equipped with a chastity cage. The second round, I attempt the same strategy again, beginning my interpretive dance on the art of war against Mali by turn 52, only for Gatarja and Dido to build their walls. Massive failure. How she's consistently doing this every game, I couldn't tell you. I'm assuming she's under some sort of make-a-wish provision. This challenge may be more difficult than first anticipated. Being so overwhelmed, and yet so far, I have major questions that need answering. How will I deal with the lack of science to get horsemen in a reasonable time frame? The expense needed to build these horsemen are far more than what I can produce in my capital. The builders needed to just extract raw horses further cuts into my production budget. All the while, enemy walls serve as a hard counter to my advance. Not to mention the immortal and future deity AI looking at my unprotected cheeks, ready to perform several gang initiations at a moment's notice. To answer these questions, I lowered the difficulty just to test if such a victory was even possible. The first question: how do I get production to build fairly expensive horses early on? Judging by the current time frame, I need to mass produce 5 sets of horses in 3 turns or less, which is mathematically impossible. It's time to get creative. Using the maneuver policy card, I get a 50% production boost to cavalry. Very nice. But at 5 turns, it would still take 25 turns to tame the required army. To this end, I also used another builder to chop forests, getting my units out in 3 turns or less. Despite my now non-existent defenses leaving the AI to uncontrollably ejaculate at the sight of my free real estate, Mali attacks my undefended position and performs what numerous humanitarians would classify as excessive force, turning my ass cheeks into pass cheeks, my lumps of horse poo into me too, my genocidal itch into the art section on Twitch. After a crippling failure, I realize I need more leeway, and thus make the strategically difficult move of turning the difficulty on King. At my lowest point and with all hope seeming lost, I didn't know if this was even possible. I needed a proof of concept test, else I'd need to pull the plug on this challenge prematurely and leave for another month-long quest of locating cigarettes. First things first, how do I get more units out of one city? I don't. I build 2 more cities. With religious settlements and another anime training montage for a second group of survivors, I was able to mass-produce horsemen using builders to chop them out in 3 different cities, and it being king difficulty, the rest was child's play. I sent my Department of Transportation to go deal with that dump truck after Gatarja says she'd rather see me starve than breastfeed me, giving the casus belli needed to hit her on the head repeatedly until she records a perfect score of 0 on the Glasgow coma scale. I then showed why I would rather play dead at a necrophiliac convention than play English Eleanor, before finally telling the Discord admin to give me Lisbon and his hard drives. Strangely, it was the latter point that was non-negotiable, leading to a turn 62 victory on King difficulty. So after proving this strategy can work, can we lower it down to turn 50? It might seem far-fetched, but there are some factors to consider. 1, Portugal was more distant than my father, and all the other capitals were too spread out from me and each other. If I could get them closer together, I can use 1 horse army to knock out multiple civs. And number 2, building settlers is too expensive, even if I get lucky with RNG Pantheons again. But most importantly, 3, in order to get the victory on turn 50, I need an X factor, which is to artificially increase my science output as my production has been maximized. In this vein, I was lucky that the RNG gave me 3 early game resources which served to open my eyes into a better strategy later on, but we'll get into that. For now, I need to answer the question of civs being too far away, and to that end, after using some ethical editing of putting 6 civs on a 4 civ map, I was able to answer the question, making it so that all civs would start in the same general area, meaning I needed less units and thus less time and resources to accomplish my objectives. I was able to capture 3 other capitals extremely quickly, but the RNG still placed London on the other side of the map, proving my thesis can work, but I need to be in the center with all other empires surrounding me. Despite all this, I was able to win on Emperor before anyone got walls on turn 63, which would have been faster had not only London been closer, but also had Gandhi not built Varu, both increasing their city strength and sending his implied consent squadron to enlarge my horsemen's rectal elasticity. Despite all this, it seemed that having extra science early on was much more of a boon than I thought. This may be the key needed. With a multitude of issues remaining, namely strong enemy defenses, my continued lack of production, and need of science early on, let's start by finally dealing with the science. On Immortal, I need another proof of concept test, and so I first reduced the map size to dual. It only allowed 4 civs max, but it is a necessity to get my strategy working properly, before going all out on the map editor and adding the Galapagos Islands to my start. Don't worry, I have not succumbed to the temptation of heroin. This will be removed for deity in exchange for a map much less broken. Let's pay attention to the present. I was able to secure an early builder, allowing me to construct a horseman by turn 25. This was key, as after playing the same exact map for over 15 attempts, Eleanor attacked me in every single one. If I knew the fucking was gonna be this good, I would have been awake to enjoy it. I begin strongly encouraging the English army to go the way of an Irish person when you take away their potatoes, before using paprika and mayo, a most potent poison for any Englishman, to take their capital by turn 35. However, due to my 2 other additions to this map, which I'm sure you've glossed over in your race to write a scathing review on how my mother should have swallowed after seeing the Galapagos, I was able to build even more horsemen even faster. The first of which was the lack of early enemy defenses, as I spread out the AI evenly with me in the center so they didn't go to war and didn't feel threatened enough to build large stone structures impenetrable by horses, allowing me to turn the Indonesians into an endangered species by turn 40, which ironically enough was the same turn the milk factory built walls in my previous Immortal attempt. The only wrinkle to my brilliant plan: the Immortal AI, when within a fortnight of another AI, has the same chemical reaction in their brain as that of a pit bull when they see a toddler minding their own business. Somalia is still at war, and in their effort to monopolize breast milk production, decided walls was a necessity. Despite this turn of events, I concluded this strategy is doable for my deity game as long as I spread out the AIs even further. Second change, I single-handedly restored more forests than Greta Thunberg if given the Midas touch, but with trees instead of gold. With all these forests, I can go one-on-one with Brazilian logging companies, chopping out said forests to somehow aid in producing more horsemen. With all 3 cards of Exodia, I was able to spam out more horsemen than Molly had arrows, able to defeat them by the hair on my ballsack on turn 52, after making the Battle of the Somme look like a school shooting on a Saturday. With all this, I now have the final formula, and go off to create a map that, while not broken, will still meet all my requirements and allow me to win a turn 50 deity domination victory. Firstly, I added in religious civs with no domination bonus early on. This is due to the fact that religious texts are on the opposite side of walls, guaranteeing that I won't be cucked like a political commentary YouTuber in this round. And now for the final trial, deity domination in 50 turns. Let's do this. The start is a legendary one, no doubt. A little weaker than a regular legendary start, making it crack certified and within reason. The only problem? I forgot to add more obsidian to the map, meaning money generation was absurd, but I didn't use most of it in the spirit of the challenge, only purchasing a single archer. I added in a cod, but their wall skipping ability doesn't apply to horses, so that's another slight oversight. And not to mention they actually made this game harder, which we'll get into in just a bit. I built a scout and found every capital by turn 17 before spam producing builders for horses and forests. So far so good. At least until disaster struck. Saladin declared a jihad on my infidelic horse humping. Not good. Stealing one of my builders and destroying another warrior, setting me back further than a lottery winner who just discovered you can buy hookers who don't look like your grandma with enough money. With all these setbacks, I got my first horseman by turn 35. We gotta move. Shortly afterwards, a god, enraged I exiled them to a life of seal hunting and igloo building, decide to join in on the now gangbang, but without the horses. It's a good thing Tamiris is a multitasker. With our heal on kills ability, we wipe out a god's forces, securing back our builder and fertility rights for another, chopping out the rest of our required units with enough left over to satiate even corrupt politicians. After making the SS look like a humanitarian organization, Cairo falls at turn 43 before it takes another 4 turns for Majapahit to fall, requiring 3 horsemen instead of 2. But now we have a problem. Indonesia and Portugal are at war, meaning it's only a matter of time until they get walls. Also, I only have 3 turns remaining, that's also bad. Turn 48. I declare war on the Portuguese, smashing through defenses faster than Zhao smashes through a family bucket meal at KFC, rushing for their capital. On turn 49, I realize they've been building walls for an unspecified amount of time. It all comes down to this. If they get walls next turn, it's Jover. If they don't, I win. And there you have it. Turn 50, World Domination on Deity difficulty. As we sit back content with today's outcome, let's reflect back on what you should take from this video. Is this strategy consistent?
Nope.
Is this replicable?
Nope.
But is it possible?
Yeah.
Treat that subscribe button like your local heroin addict, as we have more challenges in the future, including beating every victory type without exploits in 5 hours or less. I'll see you all next time. Peace.